The invasion, the world unprepared. The sky was clear over Earth, and everything seemed like a normal day. People were going about their business, living their lives, unaware of the threat approaching from the stars. But high above, in the dark vastness of space, something was stirring. A ship, unlike anything humanity had ever seen, began its descent toward Earth. At first, no one noticed. It was only a small dot in the sky, too far away to be of concern. People were busy with their work, walking on streets, driving cars, and living their usual lives. But within minutes, that small dot grew, becoming larger and brighter, a terrifying sight growing bigger in the sky. The first signs of something wrong came when the weather radar picked up strange readings, but by the time anyone realized what was happening, it was already too late. The ship's massive dark form pierced the atmosphere, and within seconds, it was hovering over the planet's largest cities. Bright lights flashed from the alien ship, and a loud low hum filled the air. The world fell silent as people stared up, unsure whether what they were seeing was real. Then, the sound of the ship's engines roaring grew louder, and panic set in. The first explosions came from the sky. People screamed as massive energy blasts tore through buildings, leveling entire neighborhoods in seconds. The ground shook beneath their feet. Cars were tossed into the air like toys, and windows shattered with deafening crashes. The humans had no idea who or what had attacked them, but the destruction was unlike anything they had ever imagined. The alien invaders did not communicate. There were no warnings, no demands. Their ships simply began their assault. In every major city, humanity's defenses were powerless. The military launched missiles, fired rockets, and sent planes to fight back. But nothing seemed to work. The aliens' technology was far beyond anything Earth had. Every shot fired from human weapons was dodged or destroyed before it even got close. In the chaos, the world's leaders tried to make contact with the alien force, but their messages went unanswered. Panic spread across the globe. Governments collapsed, and people turned to each other for help. No one knew how to stop the invaders. Among the chaos, a man named Adam stood in the middle of the street, frozen with fear as he watched the sky. His heart pounded in his chest as he saw the lights from the alien ships above, and then his mind raced with questions. Why were they attacking? What did they want? He thought of his wife and daughter back at home, but the fear of losing them forever felt overwhelming. He knew he had to act, but in the back of his mind, he wondered if it was already too late. The destruction was happening too fast. Cities burned, and people fled in all directions. The once peaceful world was now a war zone. Buildings crumbled into piles of rubble, as if the earth itself was being torn apart. It wasn't just the physical destruction that left people in shock. It was the feeling of helplessness. Humanity was used to being the strongest species on Earth, but in the face of this new, overwhelming threat, they were nothing. Their most advanced technologies were useless against the alien invaders. As the hours passed, the alien ships continued their attack, raining destruction from above. Adam knew there was nothing he could do to stop it. The military had already failed. The governments were gone. The resistance movement, if it existed, hadn't yet shown itself. He could hear the cries of people around him, but his mind was focused only on one thing: his family. He ran through the streets, dodging falling debris and shattered glass, hoping that his wife and daughter were safe. He reached his apartment building, but the sight before him made his stomach drop. The building was a pile of rubble. His heart sank. He called out for his family, his voice trembling, but there was no answer. Desperation filled him. Where were they? Just as hope seemed to fade, he heard a faint cry. Adam rushed toward the sound, his heart racing. As he reached the edge of the debris, he found his wife, Sarah, clutching their daughter, Lily. They were alive, but their faces were covered in dust, and fear was evident in their eyes. "We need to get out of here," Adam said, pulling them both close. But the panic in his eyes mirrored that of everyone else. Where could they go? The entire world was under attack. The human race, for the first time in its history, was facing an enemy they could not understand. The world they knew was falling apart, and all they could do was run. The invasion had only just begun, and there was no guarantee that humanity would survive. The odds were against them, and every moment felt like the last. As Adam led his family through the chaos, he saw others trying to flee, some running blindly, others trying to organize. But no one had a plan. There was no resistance, no hope. The invaders were everywhere, and humanity had no choice but to wait, to hide, and to hope. In the silence that followed, humanity realized something terrible. They were not prepared for this. They had been too comfortable in their dominance on Earth, too certain of their safety. But now, they were facing an unimaginable force that was wiping them out without hesitation. The first day of the invasion was just the beginning. And as night fell, the world was left with one question. Would humanity find a way to fight back, or would they fall before the might of the alien invaders? The future was uncertain, and survival was no longer guaranteed. The spark of resistance, a hidden plan. The world was a fractured, broken place after the initial onslaught. What was once a bustling, connected globe now felt like a battlefield with no hope in sight. The cities lay in ruins, the streets flooded with displaced families and terrified survivors. In the aftermath of the alien invasion, humanity's instinct was not to surrender, but to survive. But survival alone wasn't enough. For some, survival meant fighting back. In the ruins of a collapsed military base, a small group of survivors gathered in secret. Among them was Adam, still holding on to the hope that his family was alive, and that the human spirit could rise above this alien threat. His mind raced, trying to make sense of the chaos, but one thought dominated his every action: fight back. As Adam moved through the underground facility, he encountered people he had never met before, survivors from different walks of life. Scientists, military officers, civilians, and engineers. All had found their way here, united by the same cause, a burning desire to protect what was left of humanity. But there was one person they all looked to for leadership: Captain Sarah Blake, a no-nonsense military strategist who had lost everything in the invasion. Her unit had been wiped out during the initial assault, and she, like Adam, was now determined to fight back. "There's no time to waste," Captain Blake said, her voice sharp as she addressed the gathered group. "The aliens aren't going to stop. We need a plan, and we need it now." Adam stood in the back of the room, his mind spinning with the memories of his wife and daughter. Every second counted, but as he listened to Blake's plan, something sparked in him. He had heard rumors, whispers, about a weapon, one that could change everything. But it wasn't just any weapon. It was an alien technology, unlike anything humanity had ever seen before, and it had been discovered, lying dormant for centuries, hidden deep beneath the Earth's surface. Blake and the others had been working on a way to access this technology for months, but time had always been their enemy. Now, with the fate of humanity hanging in the balance, they had no choice but to act. They needed to unlock this power, and they needed to do it quickly. "I know where it is," Adam said, stepping forward. His voice trembled but was filled with a sense of urgency. "I remember hearing stories as a child. My grandfather once told me about a hidden place, an old research facility from the early days of the Cold War. It's buried beneath the mountains in the northern hemisphere. That's where the technology is." Blake turned toward Adam, her gaze intense. "Are you sure? That's a long shot. But if you're right, this could be our only chance." Adam nodded. He had no doubt. He couldn't explain it, but deep down, he felt it. The pieces were falling into place. He had to find that facility, and with it, the ancient technology that could give humanity a fighting chance. The group worked quickly to assemble a team. The mission was risky, possibly even suicidal, but Adam didn't hesitate. His mind was set. He was going to do whatever it took to save his family and the rest of humanity. The aliens had made one mistake. They had underestimated humans. They thought Earth was just another easy target, but Adam believed they were wrong. Hours later, the group of survivors, armed with what little weapons they had scavenged, boarded a makeshift transport. The journey ahead would take them through the heart of alien-controlled territory, a place where the invaders had established a firm grip. But Adam wasn't afraid. His heart was filled with determination. He wasn't just fighting for survival anymore. He was fighting for something bigger. As the team moved forward, the weight of the situation became clearer. The Earth they knew was gone. The alien invasion had reshaped everything. But this hidden weapon, this hope, could change the course of the war. The technology could be the key to defeating the invaders, or it could lead them to their doom. Their path was treacherous. Alien patrols scoured the land, and the sky was filled with alien ships, their dark silhouettes casting ominous shadows over the ground. But the team pressed on, using the cover of night to move forward and avoid detection. They couldn't afford to make a single mistake. As they neared the facility's location, Adam's thoughts kept returning to his family. He thought of his wife, Sarah, and their daughter, Lily. Where were they now? Were they safe? Every moment felt like an eternity, and he could only pray that they were still alive. Finally, after what felt like days of travel, the team reached the entrance to the underground facility. It was hidden beneath a mountain, almost impossible to detect unless you knew exactly where to look. As the team moved deeper into the mountain, they found themselves standing before a massive steel door, its surface covered in strange alien symbols. This was it. The weapon, the key to humanity's future, was just beyond that door. Blake stepped forward and placed her hand on a small panel beside the door. It whirred to life, and the door began to open slowly. The team held their breath as the massive doors creaked open, revealing a dark, cavernous space beyond. Inside, old machines and alien technology lay dormant, forgotten by time. The air was thick with dust, and the only sound was the soft hum of machines waiting to be activated. Adam stepped into the room, his heart racing. He couldn't believe what he was seeing. This was the moment that could turn everything around. The weapon was real, but there was still one problem. The technology wasn't just powerful, it was dangerous. If they didn't figure out how to control it, it could destroy them all. The spark of resistance had been lit, but the real battle was only just beginning. The awakening, unleashing the power. The underground facility was eerily quiet as the team of survivors stepped deeper into the dark, forgotten chamber. Adam's heart beat louder than ever in the silence, every step echoing through the cavernous halls. His thoughts raced, filled with questions and fears. What if they couldn't activate the weapon? What if the alien technology was too advanced for them to control? But there was no turning back now. They had to try. Captain Blake led the way, her sharp eyes scanning every corner of the room. The facility had been untouched for centuries, buried deep beneath the surface, hidden from the world. The walls were lined with strange symbols and alien technology, none of it familiar to human eyes. The machines hummed softly, as though they had been waiting for someone to awaken them. Blake's voice broke the silence. "We need to find the central control room," she said, her tone steady. "That's where we can activate the weapon. Adam, if your information is correct, the device should be here." Adam nodded, trying to suppress his anxiety. He had been right so far, but this was different. This wasn't just about survival. This was about humanity's last chance to fight back against the invaders. His family, his friends, the entire world. Everything depended on them succeeding. They had no choice but to trust in the unknown. As they moved deeper into the facility, the air grew colder and the lights flickered, casting long shadows on the walls. The group was tense, knowing that they were not alone. The aliens had already established their presence on Earth, and it was only a matter of time before they found this hidden location. But they had to act fast. The clock was ticking. Finally, they reached a large chamber, its ceiling high above them. And in the center, an enormous machine stood. It looked like something out of a science fiction nightmare, towering and complex, with alien technology woven into every surface. It pulsed with a strange energy, and Adam could feel the hairs on the back of his neck stand up as they approached. Blake stepped forward and began examining the control panel. Her fingers moved quickly over the alien interface, trying to make sense of the symbols. Adam watched anxiously, unsure whether they would be able to activate the machine. What if they couldn't make it work? What if it was too dangerous to use? The team held their breath as Blake continued working. The air felt thick with anticipation. Then suddenly, the machine whirred to life. A series of lights blinked on, and the strange energy in the room intensified. A low hum filled the chamber, and the floor beneath them seemed to vibrate. Adam's pulse quickened. It was working. The machine was waking up. "This is it," Blake said, her voice tinged with awe. "We've unlocked the power." Adam couldn't believe it. After all the destruction, all the chaos, after the world had been thrown into disarray by the alien invasion, they had found hope. The power was now within their grasp, but it wasn't just any weapon, it was something much greater. The ancient technology before them had been designed for one purpose: to protect this world from invaders like the ones who had attacked them. As the machine powered up, the team could see a series of glowing symbols appear on the walls. The symbols matched the ones they had seen earlier in the facility. Adam's heart raced as he tried to make sense of them. There was something important about those symbols, something that could give them the key to defeating the invaders. "We need to decode these symbols," said one of the scientists in the group. They might hold the key to activating the weapon. But the task wasn't going to be easy. The symbols were unlike anything the scientists had ever encountered. They were a mixture of ancient Earth languages and alien characters, as if the technology had been built long before the first human civilizations ever existed. It was as though the aliens had been preparing for this day for centuries. The group worked quickly, trying to decipher the symbols and figure out how to harness the machine's power. They were running out of time. The alien invaders would soon be on their way to this location, and they needed to unlock the weapon before it was too late. Just as Adam was beginning to lose hope, one of the scientists shouted, "I've got it. I think I understand what it's saying. The machine's not just a weapon. It's a force that can tap into the very fabric of space itself." Adam's mind raced. What did that mean? Was it a weapon of mass destruction? Could it warp space? Before he could ask, the scientist continued. "It's a gravitational weapon," she said, her voice shaking with excitement. "It can manipulate gravitational fields on a massive scale. If we activate it, we can use it to strike at the alien ships. It's the key to turning the tide." The realization hit Adam like a lightning bolt. This was their chance. With the power of the machine, they could take down the alien fleet. The invaders wouldn't stand a chance against the sheer destructive force of the gravitational weapon. Blake turned to Adam, her eyes hard and focused. "Are you ready to do this? This could be our one and only shot." Adam didn't hesitate. "We have no choice. We have to fight back. For Earth, for our families, for humanity." The machine was ready. The weapon was active. But before they could make their move, a loud, deafening noise erupted from the entrance of the chamber. The alien invaders had found them. In an instant, the room was filled with the sound of metal scraping against stone. Alien soldiers, armed with weapons unlike anything humanity had ever seen, charged into the chamber. Their eyes glowed with an eerie, otherworldly light as they leveled their weapons at the humans. Blake barked orders, and the team scrambled to prepare for the fight of their lives. The weapon was ready, but so were the aliens. The battle was about to begin. Adam's hand gripped the control panel. He could feel the power of the machine pulsing beneath his fingers. It was time to fight back, and this time, humanity had a weapon the invaders had never seen before. The battle. A fight for survival. The room erupted into chaos. Alien soldiers stormed into the chamber, their sleek armor glinting in the dim light. Their weapons hummed with deadly energy, and their glowing eyes scanned the humans with an unnerving intensity. They had come to crush the last vestiges of humanity's resistance. They had underestimated the humans once, but now they would not make that mistake again. This was the moment that would decide the fate of the world. Captain Blake reacted in an instant, shouting commands to her team. "Get to cover," she ordered, her voice sharp and commanding. "Activate the weapon. Now." The survivors scrambled to their positions, pulling out whatever weapons they had left. Adam's hands shook as he gripped the control panel in front of him. The weapon was right there. His fingers hovered over the activation switch. But the alien soldiers were closing in fast. He had to move quickly. They didn't have much time. One of the soldiers, a towering figure with glowing blue eyes, raised his weapon and fired a blast of energy at the group. The blast hit the wall beside them, sending a shockwave through the chamber that rattled the ground beneath their feet. Debris fell from the ceiling, and dust filled the air. Adam's heart pounded in his chest, and for a moment, he thought everything was lost. But Blake's team was ready. They opened fire, their weapons blazing as they fought back with all their strength. The aliens were fast and agile, dodging and retaliating with their own devastating attacks. The air crackled with energy, and the room was filled with the roar of battle. Adam didn't have time to watch. He couldn't afford to be distracted. His eyes were locked on the control panel. His fingers hovered over the buttons, trying to make sense of the alien interface. The machine was complicated, its symbols confusing and alien to him. But he had no choice. He had to activate it. Humanity's last hope depended on it. As the gunfire continued, Adam's mind raced. He had seen the alien symbols before, but now they seemed to blur together, like a puzzle he couldn't quite solve. The aliens were everywhere, and his team was struggling to hold them off. But Adam couldn't give up. He couldn't let fear take over. Come on," he muttered to himself, his fingers moving frantically over the panel. Blake was covering him, her rifle aimed at the alien soldiers. She was a natural leader, commanding the team with skill and precision. But even she couldn't hold off the aliens forever. The invaders were relentless. For every alien soldier that fell, 2 more seemed to take their place. They were outnumbered, outgunned, and cornered. But Adam could see it now, the pattern in the symbols. They weren't just random markings. They formed a code, a sequence that, when activated, would unlock the full power of the weapon. He could feel it in his bones. He was so close. Just a few more steps. "Adam, we need that weapon now," Blake shouted, her voice strained with desperation. The words snapped Adam back to reality. He focused, blocking out the noise of the battle around him. His hands moved faster, pressing the right sequence of buttons. The machine began to hum louder, the energy in the room intensifying. The glowing symbols on the walls started to shift, and a deep, resonant sound filled the chamber. The weapon was waking up. Suddenly, a massive pulse of energy shot from the machine, sending a shockwave through the room. The air seemed to shimmer, and for a split second, everything stopped. The aliens froze. The humans took a collective breath. Then, without warning, the gravitational field activated. The ground beneath their feet trembled. The force of the weapon's power was overwhelming. The alien soldiers began to scream in panic as the gravity around them shifted. They were thrown into the air, their bodies weightless and helpless, as the gravitational pull twisted and distorted. Adam's heart raced as he watched the aliens struggle to regain control. The weapon was working. It was working better than he had ever imagined. The gravity shifted like a powerful wave, pulling and pushing the invaders as if they were mere playthings in the hands of a god. Blake and the rest of the team didn't hesitate. They kept firing, taking advantage of the chaos the weapon had caused. The alien soldiers were no match for the power of the gravitational force. Some were pulled into the walls, some were thrown across the room, while others vanished into thin air, crushed by the immense pressure. "Keep pushing," Blake barked, "Don't let up. We can win this." But just as the humans thought they had gained the upper hand, something shifted. The gravitational field seemed to fluctuate. The weapon wasn't stable. Adam could feel it, a sharp, uneasy tug in the air. He had to act fast. The aliens, realizing that their soldiers were being wiped out, began to regroup. They sent in larger forces, more powerful soldiers, and more advanced weapons. The situation was about to escalate. The human resistance was strong, but they were running out of time. The aliens would soon adapt, and they would come back stronger. Adam could feel the strain on the weapon. The technology was ancient, and it wasn't designed for long-term use. The power it harnessed was unstable, unpredictable. They couldn't hold it much longer. "Adam," Blake shouted again, "shut it down. We need to stop the weapon before it explodes." But it was too late. The machine hummed louder and louder, and a blinding light filled the room. The force of the weapon reached its peak. Adam gritted his teeth. He knew what would happen next. If he didn't act fast, the weapon would destroy everything. The facility, the survivors, and the entire planet. His fingers flew over the control panel, desperately trying to shut the weapon down. Sweat poured down his face as he worked, fighting against the power of the machine. But it was like trying to stop a runaway train. The light was blinding now, and the ground beneath them shook violently. Adam had one last chance. He had to make the final move. With a final, desperate push, Adam activated the shutdown sequence. The weapon's power began to wane, the gravitational field slowly returning to normal. But the damage had already been done. The aliens were defeated for now, their forces broken, but the facility itself was on the brink of collapse. "Move. Now," Blake ordered, grabbing Adam by the arm. The team had no choice but to retreat. They had won the battle, but the war was far from over. The weapon had given humanity a fighting chance, but they couldn't rely on it forever. There was still much to do, and the invaders were not finished. With the ground shaking and debris falling around them, Adam and the rest of the survivors made a hasty retreat, knowing that the real fight for Earth's future had only just begun. The battle had been won, but the war was far from over. The aftermath, rebuilding and new threats. The dust settled slowly as the survivors made their way out of the collapsing underground facility. The weapon had been deactivated, its immense gravitational force fading away. The once bustling control room now lay in ruins, scattered with debris from the chaotic battle. The echoes of the alien invaders' defeat were still ringing in their ears, but the survivors knew this was only a temporary victory. Captain Blake led the team to the surface, the harsh sunlight greeting them after the darkness of the underground chamber. Adam's heart was still racing, his mind replaying the intense moments of the battle. The aliens had been powerful, but humanity had shown them that they could fight back. For the first time in weeks, Adam allowed himself a moment of relief. They had won, at least for now. But as the team surveyed the wreckage outside, the reality of their situation hit them like a cold wave. The alien fleet was still out there, lurking in space, waiting for the right moment to strike again. The weapon, though powerful, had been a temporary solution. The battle on the ground had been won, but the war was far from over. Adam knew they couldn't rest for long. Blake turned to the group, her expression grim. "This isn't over," she said, her voice steady despite the exhaustion in her eyes. "We've taken down a few of their soldiers, but the invaders have the upper hand. They'll regroup, and when they do, they'll come for Earth again. We need to be ready." Adam nodded in agreement. He had seen the alien forces up close, and he knew just how dangerous they were. But he also knew that humanity had something the aliens didn't: hope. They had fought back, and they had won. For the first time, the invaders had been forced to retreat. "We need to spread the word," Adam said. "The rest of the world needs to know what we found. They need to know that there is hope, that we can fight back. We can't keep this to ourselves." Blake glanced at the team, and then back at Adam. You're right, but we have to be careful. If the aliens figure out where we are, they'll come for us. We need to regroup and plan our next move. The weapon might be our only chance, but we don't know how much longer it will work. It was designed to defend this planet, but we don't know if it can stand up to a full-scale invasion. Adam couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. The weapon had been their last hope, their ace in the hole. But now that it had been activated, they had no way of knowing how long it would last. The technology was ancient, and the aliens had likely studied it. It wouldn't be long before they found a way to counter it. We need to learn more about the weapon, Adam said, his voice firm. There must be something we missed. A weakness. If we can figure that out, we can turn it into a real advantage. Blake's eyes narrowed as she considered his words. Agreed. But we don't have much time. If the aliens discover our location, they'll come for us with everything they have. We need to be ready. The survivors began to set up a base camp near the wreckage of the facility, working together to salvage what they could. Their supplies were limited, and they had no way of knowing how long it would be before the aliens returned. Adam could feel the weight of responsibility pressing down on him. He had always been a fighter, but this was different. This wasn't just about survival. It was about saving humanity. As the days passed, the team worked tirelessly to learn more about the weapon. Adam spent hours studying the ancient technology, trying to decipher its secrets. He knew there was more to it than what they had uncovered. There had to be a way to make it work for them, a way to turn the tide of the war in their favor. But just as Adam began to uncover new information, a new threat emerged. It started with a strange signal, a pulse that echoed across the planet. It wasn't human. It wasn't alien. It was something else entirely, a signal that seemed to come from deep within space, from the very heart of the galaxy. Adam and Blake exchanged concerned glances. This was no ordinary transmission. It was a warning, a sign that something far more dangerous was on its way. We have to prepare, Blake said, her voice heavy with urgency. This isn't just about the aliens anymore. Something bigger is coming. Adam's mind raced as he considered the possibilities. The invaders they had fought so far were only the beginning. Whatever was coming next would be far worse. The strange signal wasn't just a distress call. It was a harbinger of something far more terrifying. What do we do? Adam asked, his voice filled with dread. We fight, Blake replied without hesitation. We've come this far. We're not giving up now. As the survivors braced themselves for the unknown, Adam couldn't help but wonder what they were truly up against. The signal was unlike anything they had encountered before. Could it be a message from a new, more powerful alien race? Or was it something even more dangerous? The unknown loomed large, and Adam knew that the future of humanity was hanging in the balance. They had won the battle, but the war was far from over. Something far worse was on the horizon, and the team had to prepare for what was coming next. The fight for survival was just beginning. And this time, the stakes were higher than ever before. The dark signal. A new threat emerges. The days following the strange signal's first transmission were tense. Every member of the team felt the weight of the unknown pressing down on them. They had survived the invasion, but this new threat was different. It wasn't like the alien invaders they had just fought off. No, this was something far more mysterious, something far more terrifying. Adam stood in the control room, his eyes glued to the screens as he monitored the signal. It pulsed at regular intervals, a series of low-frequency vibrations that seemed to echo through the very fabric of space. It was unlike anything humanity had ever encountered. Blake walked in, her boots clicking softly on the metal floor. She had been running drills with the rest of the team, preparing for any potential attack. But it was clear that the atmosphere had shifted. The tension in the air was palpable. They were no longer fighting just for survival. They were fighting against the unknown. What do you have? Blake asked, her voice low. Adam didn't take his eyes off the screen. The signal. It's growing stronger. It's like it's being amplified somehow. It's coming from deep space. But the weird thing is, It's not coming from an alien ship. Blake raised an eyebrow. What does that mean? It means we're dealing with something else. Adam replied, tapping a few commands into the system. The signal's origins flashed briefly on the screen, deep within the void, far beyond the reach of any known star systems. It was coming from a place humanity had never been able to explore, a place that was, for all intents and purposes, unreachable. Blake clenched her fists. If we don't know what it is, how do we prepare for it? Adam turned to face her. We don't. We're completely unprepared for whatever this is. The invaders may have been dangerous, but they weren't this. Unknown. I don't know how we fight this. I don't know how to stop it. Blake's expression softened for a moment, but she quickly regained her composure. We'll figure it out. We have no choice. Whatever is out there, we can't let it get to Earth. Adam nodded grimly. He knew that the team would do everything they could, but deep down, he felt the unease growing inside him. Whatever was coming, it felt bigger, stronger, and they had no way of knowing how long they had until it reached them. Days passed, and the strange signal continued to pulse, growing stronger by the hour. There was no mistaking it anymore. It was a beacon, and whatever had sent it, whatever intelligence lay behind it, was coming. Humanity had no time to waste. Blake gathered the team for a briefing. It was clear that they had to act fast, but no one had any idea where to start. The signal seemed to be a message, but no one could decipher it. It was as if it was speaking in a language that no human mind could comprehend. Adam's mind raced. The aliens they had fought before were brutal, but they had a clear purpose. They wanted to conquer, to take over the planet. But this new threat, it felt different. It felt like something with no interest in negotiation or compromise. I think we need to take a different approach, Adam said, standing up in front of the group. Instead of trying to decipher the signal, we should focus on tracking its source. If we can locate where it's coming from, maybe we can find a way to stop it before it reaches Earth. Blake looked at him thoughtfully. You think we can do that? We have to try, Adam replied. We can't just sit here waiting for it to arrive. We need to be proactive, not reactive. Blake turned to her team. All right, you heard the man. Start gathering intel. We need to know everything about that signal, where it's coming from, what it's doing, and how we can stop it. The team scattered, each member working on their assigned tasks. Adam worked with the tech specialists to triangulate the signal's origin, using every tool at their disposal to uncover its true source. Every attempt they made only led to more questions. The signal was coming from deep space, but it was being transmitted through a medium that they couldn't explain. As Adam dug deeper, he began to feel a growing sense of dread. The signal wasn't just a message, it was a warning. A beacon calling for something, or someone, to come. But what or who was it calling? Was this an alien race preparing for an invasion? Or was it something far worse? Adam, you need to see this, one of the tech specialists called from across the room. We found something. Adam hurried over to the console, his heart pounding. The signal was still pulsing, but now they had pinpointed its origin. It was coming from the far reaches of space, from a part of the galaxy humanity had never explored. It wasn't just a random transmission. It was a message, one that had been sent on purpose. The screen flickered, showing an image of the source. The image was blurry at first, but as the tech specialists adjusted the settings, the image cleared. What Adam saw made his blood run cold. It wasn't a ship. It wasn't even a structure. It was a presence, a massive dark shape that seemed to stretch across space itself, a void, a shadow. It was unlike anything Adam had ever seen before. This isn't right, Adam whispered, his voice barely audible. Blake's face hardened as she joined him. What is it? I don't know, Adam said, his voice shaking. But whatever it is, it's coming. And we're not prepared. The screen showed the massive dark shape pulsating as though it were alive. It was growing closer, drawing nearer to Earth with each passing moment. Blake clenched her jaw. We're going to fight it. Whatever it is, we'll fight it. We've beaten the aliens. We can beat this too. But deep down, Adam wasn't sure. This wasn't like anything they had faced before. The aliens had been conquerors, but this was something different. Something far darker. And as the signal continued to pulse, Adam couldn't shake the feeling that the true horror was just beginning. The final stand. Humanity's last hope. The days had turned into weeks, but the pulse of the mysterious signal never ceased. It echoed in their minds, a constant reminder that something far more dangerous was on its way. The survivors, now battle-hardened and determined, had prepared for the worst. But as the mysterious presence in deep space grew ever closer, the question remained, could they truly face whatever was coming? Adam sat alone in the command room, staring at the vast emptiness of space on the monitor. The dark shape that had appeared weeks ago was now visible to the naked eye. It wasn't just a shadow anymore. It was a colossal, pulsating mass, slowly making its way toward Earth, like a storm cloud gathering strength. There was no mistaking it now. The threat was real. Blake entered, her face etched with weariness, but her eyes were still filled with determination. She had been the backbone of the team, rallying the survivors through every obstacle. But even she couldn't ignore the weight of what was happening. "We're running out of time," she said softly, taking a seat across from Adam. "The presence is closer now. We've sent out every possible signal, tried every form of communication, but there's no response. Whatever this thing is, it's not responding to us." Adam nodded grimly. The quiet isolation of the moment was unbearable. He had always been a soldier, someone who fought when others couldn't, but this was different. The weight of the unknown hung over him like a shadow. "We have to face it," Adam said after a long silence. "We can't keep running from it. We need to make a stand. This is our home, and we won't give it up without a fight." Blake stood and walked over to the control panel, her fingers dancing across the keys. She was already formulating a plan. "We've learned everything we can about the signal, and we've pinpointed its origin. It's a massive ship. No, it's more than just a ship. It's a weapon. A weapon capable of unimaginable destruction." Adam's heart raced. A weapon. If the dark presence was indeed a weapon, then the implications were far worse than they had feared. It wasn't just a new invader. It was something designed to wipe out entire civilizations. "We need to destroy it before it reaches Earth," Adam said urgently, standing up. Blake hesitated, her expression troubled. "We don't even know how. We don't have the firepower to take it down. The weapon we used against the aliens, it wouldn't even scratch that thing. And we've exhausted all other options." Adam's mind raced. There had to be a way. Humanity had already beaten the odds once before. They had fought back against the aliens, and they could do it again. But this was bigger. This was different. As he stood there, lost in thought, an idea suddenly clicked in his mind. It wasn't the weapon that would defeat the dark presence. It was something else, something they had overlooked. The ancient technology they had uncovered, the very weapon that had driven the aliens back, had a purpose beyond just defense. It could be repurposed, adapted, and used against this new threat. "Blake," Adam said, his voice sharp with realization. "What if we don't fight this thing head-on? What if we use the technology we already have to trap it?" Blake turned, her eyes narrowing. "Trap it? How?" Adam paced in the small room, his mind racing. "The gravitational weapon. The way it manipulates space and time. What if we could use it to create a gravity well powerful enough to draw this dark presence into a trap? We don't need to destroy it. We just need to contain it." Blake's eyes widened with understanding. "A gravitational trap. You're saying we use the weapon to pull it in and hold it there?" "Yes. We could send a signal to draw it in, then activate the weapon to contain it. The technology was built to defend Earth, so it should be able to withstand whatever this thing is," Adam said, his voice growing more confident with each word. Blake paused, considering the idea. It's risky. We don't even know if the weapon is strong enough to hold something like this. Adam met her gaze. We have no choice. If we don't try, we won't have a planet to defend. The two of them shared a long look before Blake finally nodded. All right, let's make it happen. We got one shot at this. With urgency in their movements, the team went to work. They recalibrated the ancient weapon, adjusting its settings to create a gravity well strong enough to trap the incoming threat. The room buzzed with energy as each member of the team worked to prepare the final plan. Hours passed in tense silence. The dark shape was now so close that it filled the sky, a gargantuan presence looming over the planet. The survivors had done everything they could, but now it was out of their hands. All they could do was wait for the moment to act. Finally, the moment arrived. Blake turned to Adam. It's time. With a deep breath, Adam activated the signal. The weapon hummed with energy, sending a pulse into deep space. The signal was designed to attract the dark presence, drawing it into the gravity well that had been set. It was a gamble, a huge risk, but it was the only chance they had. For a moment, nothing happened. The team watched in tense silence, holding their breath. Then, a sudden shift. The dark shape began to move toward Earth, drawn in by the signal. The gravitational pull intensified, and the presence seemed to hesitate, as if it were caught by the trap they had set. Adam's heart pounded in his chest. The plan was working. But would it hold? With a sudden burst of power, the dark shape was pulled in, the weapon's gravity well growing ever stronger. The dark presence struggled, attempting to break free, but the gravity was too powerful. It had nowhere to go. And then, with a final, violent tremor, the presence was sealed within the well, contained. The team erupted in cheers. They had done it. They had contained the unknown threat. Earth was safe, for now. Adam stood there, staring at the screen in disbelief. The danger had passed, but it had come at a cost. Humanity had fought back against overwhelming odds and won. But Adam knew this victory would only be temporary. The galaxy was vast, and there would always be threats lurking in the shadows. But for now, humanity had proven something undeniable. They weren't done yet. They had survived. And if anything came for them again, they would fight, and they would win.